If you're just joining in, welcome to Radicalized. I am your host, Mr. Radical. I am your one stop atheist shop. Uh, Beaver Politics Network here is about knowledge through discourse. We have multiple shows a day now, all 7 days of the week, and you can always find some creator here on Beaver Network that reflects your policies and your viewpoints and who you are as a person. So, we are looking for somebody that is under 30 to join the team. We want to hit all demographics. We want to hit all parts of our population so that everybody feels heard and everybody has a place to connect here on Beaver Politics. I want to throw some love to my Beaver Politics family here. We had the marathon, as some of you know, the other day. It went really, really well. Thank you so much for joining in if you were part of that. So I was supposed to be there on Thursday to cover my portion of that marathon. Unfortunately, we had to let Fur family go on Thursday. So I just want to say to all of my Beaver Politics family here, thank you so much for covering for us. It was a crappy afternoon, to say the least. So everybody who's joining in, thanks for joining in. So here we go. We all saw what happened with Trump and Vance and Zelenskyy. I don't believe that anybody with any sort of sense of dignity or respect could call it anything other than an ambush. And I believe what it shows is that America is at best a rogue state and at worst working in tandem with Vladimir Putin. That is the reality of the situation that we face right now. And I have been talking on several of my TikToks about power blocks. And I believe what we are seeing is the definition of world power blocks, very much based on continents. Obviously, Trump and Putler are going to hold on to Asia. What's interesting there is India is going to be a wild card. They are a nuclear state, but they don't get along with China. How that's going to look is going to be interesting. The Middle Eastern countries are going to go wherever the money is. They won't care as long as the money continues to flow. All they have to offer is sand and oil and gas. So they are going to continue to back whatever regime continues to pay them. Then you're going to have the European Union separated, which I'm hoping Canada will be part of that bloc. Africa is probably going to split. Both China and Russia have their tendrils deep into Africa. So a lot of Africa is going to be aligned with the Asian blocs. That leaves Japan, the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, all of that area of the Pacific Basin. And they unfortunately will probably end up having to bow down to the Asian bloc because of proximity. And then you're going to have the North American power bloc. And this is what I believe was the pitch from Putler to Trump. We're going to have our little power area over here. You're going to take Canada. You're going to take Mexico. You're going to take Panama. You're going to have your little power block over here. But at the end of the day, the entire linchpin to this entire scenario centers around Ukraine. The reality of, and everybody who's watching, I want to make sure that if you are pro-Russia in this stance, the reality of the peace deal would have seen the demise of Ukraine as a state within about 5 years of implementation. They had lost a third of their territory, including ports heading into the Baltic Sea. That is a massive strategic and industrial importance. Then they would have had America picking over the corpse of what was left. Ukraine as a state would have ceased to function within about 5 years max. That was the plan that Putler pitched to Trump. You take the stuff that you want, we'll take the stuff that we want, and everybody walks away happy, and you and I don't really have to get into a fight. And we know from Trump's actions toward Putler that there is a massive amount of either fear or respect or both. Basically, it almost exudes from Trump into Putler. So whether or not they are working directly together, or whether or not Putler is using Trump and now he's got to deal with the psychopath in America, which was still a better option than Biden or Kamala Harris would have been for him geopolitically. And then, of course, it brings into state the rogue nation of Israel, which is America's only foothold in the Middle East. And that is why they predominantly continue to back that area. So that is roughly the state that I see the world in today, as we are heading toward centralized, continentalized power blocks. And that was the original pitch from Putler to Trump. That's the conversation that they had in Helsinki. I think that's the reality of the situation. So now, again, whether or not Trump has gone completely rogue, or whether or not him and Putler are just playing the politics game and they know exactly what each one is about at this point, unfortunately, is irrelevant. That's the reality of the situation as I see it. We are essentially, I don't believe that we are right on the start of any type of an absolute war, other than the European Union will continue to feed money and arms now into Ukraine. They absolutely have to. They understand full well that using Ukraine, that is the linchpin now to everything. The European Union understands this. They're already talking about shipping more arms and possibly boots on the ground. But unfortunately, I think that is the reality if you do not back Putler off. Every single showcase in history has shown us when we do not stand up to a dictator, they continue on with their goals. It's just going to take them a little bit longer. So we'll go to the panel, we'll invite some guests up, we'll see what people have to say. And so, Warris, we'll start with you, and what do you have to say about all that?
Well, there's just a lot of to talk about, honestly. I just don't know where to start.
All right. Do you want to sit back for a minute and we'll continue on to the next guest, and then we'll come back to you if you want to chew over the fat a little bit there?
Let's let them talk first. I'll wait here.
You betcha. I'll have you just put your mic on mute, please, so everybody has a chance to be heard clearly. Kim on the left.
Hey, so I was watching yesterday. It was horrible. I cried watching it. It was horrible what Vance and Trump did to Zelensky. Um, Shocking, actually. My son, who's 24, was with me, and he was literally like, "Why doesn't he punch him?" And I'm like, "They would honestly probably shoot him." But no, I'm very concerned we're headed towards war, like for us. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on the possibility of that, or like, do you think that's how this ends up? Because I don't see how this ends otherwise.
Um, I see three possibilities right now. Uh, Trump isn't going to be around much longer health wise. He's got a couple of years max left in him. And within that last couple of years, he's going to be so senile that he's not going to be functional. And then the real puppet masters behind Trump will take charge. And it really depends on what direction they want to go. And at this point, I couldn't really tell you if Trump is in power, then they're going to play the Russian game plan. But I think part of the internal strife that's happening in the Republican Party, and we've heard little snippets and tidbits of it, is there is a pro-Russian GOP, and there is a not so pro-Russian part of the GOP, depending on which guy I think you're talking to. And I think a lot of that is going to come to a head. Is war a possibility? Yeah, I think so. But I think the bigger possibility is Ukraine essentially becomes the dumping ground, unfortunately, for the entire world. That's, I think, the strongest possibility. The EU is going to understand they can't give up Ukraine in any way, shape, or form. That's going to be just a green light to continued advancement.
I agree. And you could see yesterday, Marco Rubio, during the whole conversation, looked mortified, but then he went on Fox News after and he
No,
defended them. And I've heard, like, and I've seen it, I can't remember which Democrat congressman had said that the lives are being threatened of those Republican congressmen, and that's why nobody's doing anything. It seems to me like that it seems like that's probably the case.
uh, wouldn't. I mean, at this point, would it surprise anybody? And one of the things that Canadian, I'm going to come back to you here for a second, but one of the things that I keep pointing out here for the last week or two is the fact that the Russians broke into both the RNC and the DNC, but only released the democratic material out and back to the public. I think really tells you about a lot of the state. I think they have a lot of dirt on American senators, and these guys, being the repugnant people that they are, will absolutely roll over essentially to stay out of jail. That's the reality of it.
Yeah,
So,
and then today, Hegseth apparently stopped all of the intelligence
yep,
from
yep,
Russia, which is crazy. I,
yep.
it's insane. It's the United States of Russia now.
Yeah, essentially, yep. So Canadian, we'll get you to jump in there. Lori, we'll get to you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in. I'll get you to just put your mic on mute until we get to you so everybody has a chance to speak. If you're just joining in, I am Mr. Radical. The show is Radicalized here on the Beaver Politics Network. So Canadian, do you want to jump in and what do you have to say here?
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with the shock and awe of pretty well the whole planet that's of the sound mind of peace and democracy and normalcy. Yeah, what happened to Zelensky is beyond words. I immediately went to the White House Facebook page and blasted them. I said things I think Zelensky should have said. And then I
Yeah,
went to JD Vance's page and blasted him there and put videos up. I believe this is what we need to do. I think everybody across Canada, Britain, Ukraine, everybody that has a keyboard needs to get on these pages. And I mean, not just put one or two posts, everybody dedicate 1 hour a day and we flood their pages with our comments about this. Because I believe if Germany had the technology we had back in 1939 to take pictures, to be able to send messages, to be able to communicate, they could
yep,
have possibly stopped the Holocaust.
yep,
The word couldn't get out and the crap happened. And we're
yep.
at that precipice right now. The crap is happening, but we're not getting the word out. I've been taking screenshots of this live since it's been happening for the last 2 weeks. It barely gets up to 100. I go to the ones that are pro Trump. They're getting 500, 1,000 views. It's like they're being fed people by this app. Meanwhile, these lives are being like shadow banned. Seriously, because like I'm going and I'm sharing, I'm telling people about this, and the message isn't getting out. They're not showing up,
Yep.
and it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
The numbers don't make sense for this. So what I really believe is going on here is it is going to be war. I believe in the very near future they're going to cut the cables in the ocean because Trump a long time ago said, "Oh, Putin's going to cut those cables." That's a red flag. He says the loud part out or the quiet part out loud. And I believe that's part of their plan is to cut those cables, use Elon's satellites for telecommunication. Elon is planning to drop satellites out of orbit this year. He
Buddy,
announced
can you
it.
stop being like, okay.
Sorry. Hello?
All right, guys, can you mute your mics, please, and while somebody's speaking? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Anyways, I just think we're heading towards war. The United States is going to, go into civil war because there's 290 million Americans that didn't vote for Trump. They didn't. They might have sustained from voting from either, but they didn't vote for him. And so I think there's going to be a lot of blowback from Americans, especially if Trump tries to attack us. I really do. I think there'll be a real big civil war. So I hope it doesn't go that way. But after what I saw yesterday, I, I got to prepare for it. I got to stock up. I just don't believe stability is underneath Canada. So
Yeah, and
that's my
that's
plane.
I think for a lot of us, we're feeling the same way. We have to be front and center about the reality of the situation, that it can be as bad as all of that. And again, it works toward the way that human beings think, that, it'll never go there. It'll never go there. And what history has always told us is, yes, it does go there. It goes there all the time. It goes there consistently. So that's the reality as I see it. So, Lori, will go to you, and then Canadian Mulligan will go to you.
Hi, everyone. It's my second live today. I'm doing a little better. I'm as terrified as anyone. A few weeks ago, I mentioned something about maybe Canada, maybe planning a strategic move with Mexico, because I do understand that Hexit is talking about very bad things to Mexico. I don't want to get your live banned, so I don't want to go into the detail. And TikTok is being very strict on what we say and the posts we make. I was told, well, NATO's not going to allow that, but we're at the point where law of the land is no longer relevant. We need to have allies. And we have Mexico on the other side. Maybe it's just a pipe dream I have, but I don't see why we can't be talking to Scheinbaum. Yes, Claudia Scheinbaum. She's an extremely intelligent, educated woman. She's an engineer. And I don't see why we can't be at least planning our next move with her. I don't see that we're doing any of that. It seems like we're in this on our own.
Yeah.
And it really frightens me because our allies are far away. Yeah, sure, they'll help us, but they're far away. If the United States decides to do something to us, we're pretty much alone. And I've worked with the Army, I've worked with the Air Force. We're decimated at the moment. We're starting to hire more recruits. 1,000, I think they've hired. We have a female chief of defense staff, which Hexit probably despises because he's a pure, total misogynist. But in any case, I hope it irks him. And also, I think all this back talk to Trump and all this going after him is maybe making him angry. And I find that when he's angry, he does more damage sometimes. So we have to be careful how we go about it. maybe people don't agree with me, but I do find he gets his back up, his how do I say it? His back, his hunched back, very hunched right now, up very easily. And he seems to take it out on whoever the next day or in the middle of the night. That's when he likes to post nasty things. But in any case, for now, that's my rant. But that's the things I'm thinking of. And I may be off the mark, but that's where I'm going.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping in there, Lori. Well, I absolutely agree with almost everything you said there. The one thing that I will, and something that I make commentary on a lot if you watch any of my stuff, is that you cannot negotiate with a sociopath and a psychopath. You simply can't. They will tell you what you need or what they need you to hear in the moment, and then they will continue on with that path. Trump is very much what I call a transactional personality. Every interaction you have with him is not a genuine interaction. He is either gathering information on you, or he is already exploiting information that he has on you on you. That is the way that his type of personality works. So Canadian Mulligan and Frontline, hey, thanks for coming in. We'll get to you after Canadian Mulligan.
I had a little different little thought, and I was kind of curious as to what like Britain, I'm kind of curious as to why it's Starmer, I believe,
Yep.
why he just seems to be like, why is he making deals with the U.S. and I realize that I probably sound pretty what do you call that, naive, but that's why I'm here to learn. And secondly, why isn't he coming out and backing us? He seems to be very kind of reticent to say too much, especially while he was at the White House, of course. So I'm a little confused. So I was just wondering if anyone had any thoughts.
He might very well be taking Lori's approach about not poking the bear, which I can completely understand that approach. I mean, at this point here, he's as sensitive as a third-degree burn right now. So anything that you approach Trump with is going to draw some type of ire, some type of feedback, some type of response in this situation. But again, when you're dealing with a personality of his type, there's almost no place that you can go other than fawning flattery that is not going to cause this man to go off the deep end at this point. And, especially when you start throwing in his age, his obvious physical deterioration, all of these things begin to play on his mental capacity. And what little mental capacity he has already is being stretched to its limits. It absolutely is. But I still contend that a lot of his strings are being pulled behind the scenes. Without doubt, Elon Musk is at the center of it. And the reality is Trump going to be emboldened enough to actually put troops into Canada, put troops into Mexico? And that's where the real problem lies, because that is the no turning back zone. Now, I get it once it happens that, yeah, there is no turning back at that point. But the reality of it politically, they have got to be darn sure. And that's where I hope that my American friends watching that are paying attention to the show, that your guys' voices, that you guys, much like our other guest was saying, keyboard warrior there, we have to flood the network with our displeasure. The lineups of people for Vance's holiday there is ski resort holiday. That's the sort of thing that they need to see every day, that they understand that the population in general absolutely does not have their back. but I will also caution that if you are out on the streets, they're also looking for a reason to lock the population down. And if they had control of the military, I firmly believe that you would already be there. Frontline, hey girl, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Just to respond to Canadian Mulligan, I think that Europe is going to try to be as diplomatic as possible for as long as possible so that when things go south, they can say, we tried every diplomatic strategy that we had in our books, right? They kind of have to do that. At the end of the day, United States, Russia, and North Korea are some of the biggest holders of nuclear warheads. And they need to kind of walk on eggshells. And it sucks, but these are very unstable human beings, right? Very, very unstable. And we don't want to mess around with that kind of a force. We have to try all the diplomatic means first before it ends up going into a full forceful battle between everybody. So like I know that, France and Germany have their own nuclear warheads as well, but it's just not something that we don't want to come out of the gate swinging, because that could just end up being a disaster that we can just maybe avoid, right? And what I wanted to add is that as much as the Trump administration is aligning with Russia and aligning with Putin, they're not friends. Russia is using Trump to get what they want. They're blackmailing him because they have so much dirt on him, and they've helped him financially so many times when he was going bankrupt that he owes them. But I think Putin looks at Trump as a joke, to be honest. And once he's done using him for what he wants, they're going to be left having to defend themselves from Russia. Because what if Russia wants to take back Alaska, for example, right? And then they're going to have no allies because he's pushed everybody away. So there's a lot of strategy that's going on in the background that I think we're not aware of. And at the end of the day, that's what diplomatic democracies do. They try to tackle things with diplomacy first before they resort to anything else.
Yep.
So that was my answer to that. Other than that, hey, everybody, I just came back from a protest today that I go to every Saturday outside of the U.S. consulate, protesting the 51st state BS. And I kind of had a little bit of an insight as to why Doug Ford won the election in Ontario, because there was a bunch of people at this protest that were supporting Ford. And it was wild for me to watch, because these are federal voting Liberals and NDPers. And they were back, and they were saying, well, we understand why Ontario did it because he's the only conservative that's tough on Trump, and he came out looking so tough on Trump. And I was trying to tell them, like, this guy is a secret Republican. He said it many times. Back in 2016, he said that he had unwavering support for Trump. The whole thing to me was just political theater. He knew exactly what he was doing. He put on political theater, called an election so that he could get in for a third term. I don't think that Doug Ford is going to stand that tough on Trump. I really don't. I think that it's just, again, it's political theater to make people like him and vote for him. But it was pretty wild to me when I was asking them, like, why didn't you guys look at his history? And they're like, well, the media would have shown it, but the media didn't show it. The Liberals and the NDPs in the Ontario government didn't say anything about it, so it must not be true. And I literally pulled up videos and showed them, and all of them had their jaws dropped to the floor when they saw that. So I think a big issue, too, is that our media is really not doing a good job. It's not doing its job of being investigative journalists, of speaking truth, of exposing lies. They're not doing that, right? They had Kevin O'Leary on, I think, NPR not too long ago, where he was talking, he said things like Justin Trudeau's pesos. Like, that was a completely racist comment, and yet the journalist said nothing about it. They just let it slide. He made completely false allegations about how much our dollar has dropped and stuff like that, which was a complete lie. And again, the journalists did nothing. They just let him speak. So mainstream media is not helping us out. And for all the Canadians that are, on the right side of history, but are only paying attention to mainstream media, that's still a problem. Because then we end up with things like Doug Ford in office in Ontario. So That's my 2 cents that I had to add for now, and you can come back to me later.
Thanks for chiming in.
Hey, how you
If you're
doing,
just
everyone?
joining the show, guys, I'll ask you to mute your mic until we get to you, please, and thank you. We want to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak here. So, Stormin, if you could just mute for a minute there, we'll get to you in a sec. Remember, guys, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Welcome to the show. I am Mr. Radical, the host. The show is Radicalized here on the Beaver Politics Network. So Sasquatch, will get to you, and then Stormin, and then Warris. You've had a chance to mull it over, so we'll go to you after that. So Sasquatch, welcome to the show. And remember, guys, to keep it respectful. Everybody needs to be heard. Everybody has to have a voice. However, if it gets degrading, or you will be asked to leave. Thank you. Sasquatch, welcome.
Welcome. I haven't been on in the last few days. I feel bad because I was kind of here before everything went down in Ontario, and then I look, I'm like, oh no, I'm so disappointed for you guys. I always feel bad sitting here in BC with NDP. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry, but I don't know. I have a few opinions. I don't know if I'm correct. I am by no means the most politically educated person in this live by any stretch of the imagination, but I find it that nobody's talking about, and maybe I'm just ignorant, that Ukraine is the biggest exporter of uranium on the planet. Canada used to be there. I had an ex and his dad mined uranium in northern Saskatchewan for years and years. He was a very, very experienced miner, and Ukraine overtook us like quite a few years ago. And I mean, when I think of China and their green initiatives, like they are smoking their green energy initiatives. They are absolutely crushing it.
Yep.
And them being in bed with Russia, Russia wanting Ukraine. Why is no one talking about, energy, the US fighting for energy? Like maybe uranium is at the heart of this. Because I knew with Gaza, the oil reserves and the real estate perspectives of that, I always knew that was going to be greed. At the end of the day, it's genocide, but it's greed, right? I don't want to use any
Yep.
bad words on here. But for me, am I crazy that I don't see one single soul talking about the uranium potential in Ukraine? I'm sorry. I think that is at the heart of this because when you think Russia, what do they supply China? Tons of coal. Well, with global warming, as someone that does a lot of resource harvesting, logging and mining and road building, a lot of that is not accessible anymore because that permafrost is thawing. It's just like how people go, there's oil here and oil there. It's not always accessible or profitable to be able to physically and logistically access that resource. And I think Russia's coal is going to have some serious logistic problems trying to access that as global warming continues. And also, of course, fossil fuels and coal is kind of going to reinforce that global warming. So to me, I don't get why I say it all the time and no one says anything. I'm like, am I crazy? Am I like the crazy tinfoil hat lady here? But I think uranium has a massive, massive part to play in this war. And it always comes down to resources. And as far as the whole 51st state things, I could be wrong. Personally, you see everyone talking about it. There's a term they use, and when you bombard the public with information, and that's what Trump is doing. He's absolutely, oh, thank you, absolutely bombarding people with information, and it's almost like an emotional political terrorism. It's like a propaganda terrorism where we're going to invade your country, we're going to take this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to start war. And I personally don't think they're going to roll drones into Canada and start doing that. I think that between the oligarchy here, the oligarchy there, we've got the bird flu that's going completely unreported and checked. We've got ice
Yep.
raids on farms, and we're a pretty cold climate. There's farming in Canada, but I mean I'm up in Mackenzie. Like the water here, the rivers flow to the Arctic Ocean. I can't grow kale in a greenhouse. I struggle with lights inside to grow vegetables. So I think that a lot of it's the two sides of the country. It doesn't matter. Like Pierre has a friend. Does he not have a friend that is a billionaire from a pharmaceutical company that operates in the US? The border
Yep.
doesn't matter when you have that much money. You watch and see how many people are going to profit off of, not, and of course, with everything being completely underreported and there's no transparency and the media is completely controlled, we're not going to see how the supply chain is affected by bird flu. We're not going to see how it's affected by these ice raids. And we all know they're going to slap all of those people in prison, slap them right back on those farms. Instead of $8 an hour, they're going to get 80 cents an hour. And they're just going to say, oh, well, the supply chain is interrupted. And all of a sudden, I'm paying $20 for a head of lettuce.
Yep.
You know, I can only buy so much Canadian. I'm pretty lucky where I can grow some of what I need. I have an iguana, though, so I go through a lot of produce, and I'm very aware of produce prices. Is it Canadian, Mexican, American? Where is it coming from? And you are going to see some serious profits being made on both sides of the border, and they don't give a shit if you're Canadian. They don't care if you're American. They care if you are one of their rich buddies that can help them out. If you can give them any kind of heads up, if you've got political power, that's all they care about. Do you have access to real estate? Do you have access to this? Like, you think there's no billionaires in Canada that aren't buddies with BlackRock? You know, you think that they're not friends with them? And I was in a live the other day, and I was getting very heated, very heated about somebody saying that it's okay that we have corporate interest to help build more homes. And I go, what good does that do if BlackRock comes in and scoops them all? Because you know what? They don't need to wait for a mortgage. They don't have to wait for financing. They don't have to save up 50 grand. They're going to scoop and buy. You could build 10,000 houses a year. You could build 100,000 houses a year. And corporate landlords have the absolute capacity to scoop and grab them all. And I know we're a pretty pro-liberal crowd here, and I'm absolutely anti-conservative, but Jag Meat was just, he had my heart. I know he's not very popular right now, and I get it, but God, when he was talking about, I want BlackRock out of here. I want corporate landlords out of Canada. I want to smash this oligarchy. We need to tax the rich. We need to bust up these monopolies. And I'm like, why is every human being in Canada not voting NDP? What are we doing, guys? Like, what are we absolutely doing, guys? Like, liberals, good. NDP, much gooder, in my opinion. And that's just me as a millennial sitting here. I've told my story a million times. I moved to Mackenzie to try and get on at the mine and buy a house. Well, the mines have slowed down, and then the twinning of the pipeline here has finished. So there's just operators flooding up here. Well, now I'm living in my parents' basement, and I'm traveling 2.5 hours to make $25 an hour running loader. And I'm broke as a joke, and I can't buy a house. And before I moved here in Prince George, I was working 20 hours a day, seat time at 2 jobs running heavy equipment. I lived in a tiny 1-bedroom with cockroaches in it. I drove a 99 Sunfire. I have no student debt. My credit score was about 812, I want to say. And like, I couldn't get approved for a trailer in a park.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sick of it. Like, I'm sorry. And my landlord's in China and Mexico, and he's off in Thailand, and him and his wife are buying new trucks. And I'm going, they haven't worked in 20 years. And I work 20 hours today. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's making me into an insane, angry, crazy person. I'm going to start running around with a bullhorn yelling in the streets pretty soon, because I'm like, this is not real. Like, I know that there's very large political goings on right now, but I'm like, I can't even get stable and have an apartment for 6 months without it being flipped. And now I'm paying an extra $800 a month. Like, I can barely keep a roof over my head. I'm diabetic and 35 and going back to school for heavy duty mechanic because I can't live as an operator with no kids and no debt. I can't physically do it. I'm in my parents' basement. I'm like, we need to start stabilizing people, because that's the real attack, to keep people impoverished. The attack on women with limiting abortion and birth control. It's all to keep people poor, struggling, angry, fighting, and it's this person, it's the lady on welfare's fault, it's this immigrant's fault. If we can take care of citizens and get them on healthy, stable mental health, physical health, their housing, their job security, our industries are stable, we would be so much more able and ready to fight propaganda, to fight against fascism. When Germany started having fascism, people were very poor and very angry. And it's even, you look at, the Middle East, that's how you get people radicalized to the right. It's pretty typically they're poor, they have no resources, and they want someone to blame, and they're going to fight whoever they think is the problem. And if you can eliminate, the same with crime, if you can eliminate that poverty and that struggle, I think we could become such a better, healthier civilization where the hate isn't there. I'm not going to hate anyone if I'm living in a nice home in a stable job. Why would I hate anybody? I mean, there's still jerks that do. I mean, they've got problems, but I think that 60% of the people that are angry, I think it would wipe that anger off the map, and we could start directing things to building instead of fighting. War, Canada versus the US, Ukraine versus Russia, nuclear war. I don't care. I want a logging industry back. I want to know that I'm going to have a job in 6 months when I go to my job. I want to know that I'm going to be able to have food and health care. And I'm not really into the fighting. I'm a pretty aggressive, angry redneck person. I'm totally anti-war. I think we could spend, if we started subsidizing industries, small businesses, and we started subsidizing logging and building back up and diversifying trade, I would rather make a lot of good, strong friends that are also not wasting resources on war. And if anyone swings at us, well, you know what? We've been building for 10 years. We're strong. Our industry's strong. Steel and automotive. If you're going to go to war, you want those industries to be strong, rock solid. And that's how I look at it. Like, if we have to go to war, I'm diabetic. I have borderline personality disorder. I'm not getting enlisted anyway. I'm crazy. They're not letting me have a gun. But I'll jump in a machine and I'll come at them. I'll put a bush bumper on a truck and I'll start smashing into them. Like, get out of here. But I don't want to fight them. I just want them to go away so we can build and live and start learning how we can be a strong force together. Because I don't care about fighting Trump. I'm worrying about homeless people at -40. I'm worried about people starving, working 3 jobs that are homeless and can't pay their mortgage. Like, it's just the problems of the rich are more and more and more. And I'm like, I think there's people that just want enough to live, to be okay. Their kids can go to school and they know that that school's not going to close down, or that they're not going to lose that special ed teacher that helps their autistic child be able to function in school. Like, the priorities are insane. They're absolutely insane. So that's my take on it. I think the 51st state is blowing smoke up our ass to hide how all the price gouging. It's going to push us to monopolize further in Canada, because now instead of 5 options, you've got 2 options at the grocery store. And I personally think the whole Ukraine thing, if they want that uranium, baby. China and Russia want that uranium, and that will keep China and Russia in bed together, because Russia's not going to be able to mine coal forever. They can't get it anymore. It's thawing out. They can't get it anymore.
Wow.
Sorry, I haven't been online. I had a lot of thoughts. Going on in there.
All right.
Thank
That
you.
is a high bar to meet up to. Storm, unfortunately, you're going to have to step up to the plate here in a second. But I want to bring it back to the original conversation here. Guys, if you're just joining, welcome to Beaver Politics. The show is radicalized. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. But I want to bring it back to the Ukraine point and the uranium. The reason that when the original invasion happened and then Russia came out with their slew of excuses for as to why they were actually stepping into Ukraine, at the end of the day, they are going into Ukraine for the same reason that historically everybody has gone into Ukraine for: the land, the resources. That's it. End of story. So whether it's the uranium or the rare earth minerals or whatever it happens to be, at the end of the day, when I always talk about the 3 R's of society, the things that people will mass unalive for: your race or your region, resources, and religion. But at the end of the day, they had religious reasons to go in, but it was always about the resources. So, Stormin, thanks for sitting patient. Welcome to the show. What do you have to say?
Thanks for having me on tonight, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for slowing things down a little bit, because Sasquatch really had something to say there, and I didn't want to follow it immediately, and I'm on board with everything you said there too, Sasquatch. I mean, that was an excellent little rant you went on there. So, thumbs up to you. I just wanted to touch back onto what Frontline was talking about a bit with the Ontario election there. If you guys want to stay with Ukraine, that's fine. We can switch back later. But with the Ontario election, with the smart voting, and I think we all know Johnny on TikTok here, good friend of all of ours. He's broken down all of the regions in most of the provinces across Canada, how to smart vote and how to get the Conservatives out. And I mean, because of the short campaign we had in Ontario, when we have 3.5, 4 weeks or something like that, Ford didn't really allow a lot of time for organization from the NDP and Liberal and Green parties, I thought. So also the Liberals, I don't think were very serious about this election. I don't think Bonnie Crombie was a very smart choice as leader. Hopefully, in the next 3-4 years, the Liberals get their act together a little bit more. All we want to do is take away seats from the Conservatives in Ontario right now, and not let them have a majority. But I thought Merritt Stiles did a really, really good job, and we did switch a few previously, 3-4 elections in a row seats. From blue to orange to the NDP, and I think a lot of it was what on a couple groups on Facebook and on Blue Sky as well, and we've just been sharing things about smart voting and ABC, anyone but conservative, and I think it really helped, and it did move around. But like I said, with the short campaign season that we did have, there just wasn't enough time for a mass uh, you know, assault on the Conservatives in Ontario. But I think we're going to get stronger. I think next election is going to be better, and hopefully we can flip the province orange like a few others have in Canada. So that's all I had to say, and I 100% agree about the uranium in the whole thing about that is, I mean, you look at the places that Trump's talking about: Greenland, Canada, Mexico, and the the Panama Canal. All those things have tie to Russia. I mean, Russia wants and America wants routes up to our oil reserves in the Arctic. They want to stop the sanctions in the Panama Canal. I mean, if anyone can't see that Trump's not an asset, it's beyond me. It's astounding. So, anyways, I just wanted to come in and say that real quick, and I love listening to you guys. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks for sharing, Stormin. Appreciate that. Warris, I've left you silent there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go Warris and Kim, because you guys haven't had a chance to talk in a little while, and then we'll introduce you, not the ma. I'm not. We'll get to you, not the mama. We'll get to you after Kim on the left. So, Warris, you've had a chance to digest. So, what do you have to say?
Well, I agree of what Canadians said about the American Civil War stuff. It is very likely that it's going to happen because of Donald Trump, and a lot of people are not liking him. So it's very likely that there's going to be a civil war. So plus in the United Kingdom, there's a lot of knife fights, right? So all of that going on there is going to be very bad in the U.S. A lot of death and a lot of destruction. That's all I had to say.
Thanks, Warris. Kim on the left.
Sorry, not much else after I spoke earlier, but I did want to say to anyone who is in the Toronto area and that supports Ukraine, there is a march on Monday starting at 6 p.m. It's starting from Yonge and Dundas Square and marching to, I believe, the U.S. consulate. And I would love to see everyone come out. I'm going to be there. I think it's really important that the world sees that we're standing with Ukraine. And also, there's a lot of, I don't know if they're real people or bots in the live who are supporting Russia. They're supporting Trump. And I just want to say, from somebody who had grandfather and a great grandfather that were actually Nazis in Germany, it is something of deep shame and embarrassment to myself. I actually used to hide it. I didn't start talking about it until recently. But take a look in the mirror and see where you're standing on the side of things, because where you're standing now is where you would have been standing in 1930s Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. Lori, we'll go to you next, and then actually, we're gonna go to Not the Mama. Not the Mama, welcome to the show. Hello, Not the Mama. Are you there? All right, doesn't look like it. So, Lori, we'll get back to you, Not the Mama, if you can't get on. Lori, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Frontline.
I don't know how much I have to add to this. However, uh, I wish that some of those protests were taking place around here so I could join in. Even though I'm not so mobile right now, I can still get around. Uh, you were talking, I think Kim said the protest is in Toronto. I kind of missed that, even though I was listening. Uh, anyway, uh, it's a little bit disturbing what's going on right now, and there's so much news that I'm having trouble following it, and I'm glued to every news source all the time. I just find that it's uh, it's a little bit much to take in, and my granddaughters are feeling it. I did a post on that, how afraid they are at times, how much fear they have in their eyes about Trump and what's going on. They hear it at school, they come back from school, they're talking about it, their friends are talking about it. And it is upsetting to see that because our children are being affected by this. They're being affected by how we react because we're not reacting so calmly all the time. A lot of us are spending time maybe crying, maybe angry. I'm a little angrier than I was before. This is why I'm getting out there, going on lives and speaking out. And please take the time to talk to your children, those of you who have children or grandchildren, and let them know, at least if you have to lie, that it's going to be okay, because my grandchildren are upset and I'm not sure I know what to do about it right now. I've been trying to talk to them, but I'm not sure I know what to do because there are times when I'm terrified. I haven't seen this. I'm an old lady. I'm 72 years old. I went through the first scare. What was it? Was it the Bay of Pigs or whatever, where we thought
Yep.
something was going to? I was at school, and
Yep.
I thought the world was going to end that day. And I remember looking at the sky and thinking the world was going to end. I was young. I was 6 or 7, and it was absolutely terrifying. So our children know. They know something's up. They know something's going on. So for me, it's important because I'm really into child advocacy. I was a Girl Guide and Brownie leader, and I'm helping to raise my grandchildren. So anyway, that's what I have to say for now. And I think it's important.
Thanks very much, Lori. Frontline, what do you think?
Well, since we talked about children, I might as well bring up the fact that I really think that we need to focus on this psychological war that's happening because it is affecting our children, it's affecting our teenagers. And when I was at the protest today, I was talking to a mother who was telling me that, her kids are really well informed. They know the dangers of what's happening, but a lot of the kids at school are on the conservative side of things because of the whole anti-trans thing that the conservatives are pushing. And a lot of the boys at school think that's a good thing because they don't like trans people, so they're getting riled up for the conservative base. And these are like, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys who are now eating up all this propaganda. And that's super scary to know that this is the type of thing that boys are talking about in their, high school lunchrooms and breaks and stuff like that. And then the other really worrying thing that we found out the other day, actually, in one of our lives, we had an 18-year-old who is in university right now in Ontario, who let us know that his teacher in his macroeconomics class, because he's doing a business degree, was showing videos of Pierre Poilievre and played the Jordan Peterson and Pierre Poilievre interview for the class showing them that this is a good example of people that know what they're doing economically. And that is beyond wild and scary to me because I feel like that goes against the code of conduct of a university professor. You're not supposed to be biased. You're not supposed to show any political sides. If you are going to do that, then you have to play videos of how the other political leaders also look at economy, right? There should have been videos there from Mark Carney. There should have been videos there from Jagmeet. But no, this professor was pushing full-blown conservative rhetoric onto his class, and the 18-year-old who was on her panel specifically said, like, I don't know if any of the other kids in the class are realizing what's going on. And, I encouraged him to go talk to the dean and go talk to the school and report it because to me, that is wild. And to add on it, I asked him where he was from in Ontario, and he basically just said that he is from a very religious community and that there's a lot of Christians in that area. And I'm wondering, like, is this a one-off, or are teachers and universities actually pushing political rhetoric on their students? When we look at the percentages of a lot of the people that voted conservative in the Ontario election, it was young men. It was men under the age of 40. And I see them on my panels. I do debates. I hear from them all the time, and it's always 18, 19, 21, 22-year olds all the way up to 30, but it's younger men that are eating up this propaganda, and I don't know how we combat it because we're being silenced. I had two of my videos got taken down today for community guideline violations because I was talking about the Tate brothers coming back to America, and that got immediately wiped. So I don't even know how to fight this anymore. On the platforms where we have the most people and we have the most reach, we're getting silenced. And then on the more free platforms, there's just not enough people on there yet. So again, I feel like this needs to be a strategy that our political leaders need to be talking about right now constantly. And they need to step up and, hire a disinformation debunking task force or something. But something needs to be done because the psychological war is how they win, and it's how they've gotten this far. And we need to do something in the masses. We need to get together and do something about it because young people are being influenced right now in really, really dark ways. I also wanted to talk about something else, but I can wait till I have my turn next so that I let other people chat as well.
Alrighty. Thanks, Frontline. Evil Tom will welcome to the show. We'll have you chime in here, and then Sean will get to you.
Yeah, I think you had some very good points here, Feminine. Sorry. I do think it's a problem of, how to explain it. How do I explain it? It's like, if something that has nothing to do with you, right, like other people's sexual orientation has nothing to do with you. You have your own sex. Why should that bother you? I think that's a really huge problem. I think, people should be who they are. If you're gay, if you're straight, if you're transsexual, that should not be a problem with me.
No, it absolutely shouldn't be, but unfortunately, the way that this actually came about is, I believe it was late '80s, early '90s. Essentially, what the Republican propaganda machine was throwing stuff against the wall. Actually, it might have been a little bit further along than that. So don't quote me on that time frame, please. But basically, what they were doing is throwing shit against the wall with the public to see what was going to stick. That is one of the ones that stick. And that is what they have been running with because they realized that it was a key opening into people's emotions. And that's why it's actually become a front and center topic for them because they know that a certain percentage of the population is going to be so triggered by this that it's unreal, and they have responded accordingly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you, but being a straight white male like yourself, I don't get like why other people sexual, like whoever they are, should affect me. It doesn't. You know, it doesn't affect me.
Yep.
Whether people want to be straight or gay, it does not affect me. So why did it make this an issue?
Yep.
I don't get that.
It's simply a political talking point, Tom. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. It does have nothing to do with anybody else. What happens between somebody and their doctor has nothing to do with somebody else. But the right also understands that for their base, and particularly for a Christian base, I mean, let's be honest, part of my show is discussing the religious aspects of what's going on. And the reality of the matter is that when you have people that are willing to essentially base their lives on the writings of first, second, third, fourth century goat herders, and really not question any of the validity of the information that comes from that, then obviously you have people that are really, really open to essentially exploitation. And if I could use that old Star Wars little bit there, that the Force works on how did he put it, old Obi-Wan there, uh, for the slow-minded. I can't remember the quote, funny enough, yet. But Sean, let's go to you. What do you have to say?
I have a couple things to say. I remember them all. I don't think he's in here anymore, but there was like a possible troll saying how his viewpoint is peaceful and blah blah blah, and he supports what Trump and Vance did to Zelenskyy. I just want to say bullying, whether it's using your hands or your voice, is violent. And what they were doing to Zelenskyy is in essence, like, it was violent. They were attacking him, and it was all planned. It was all planned to get the American people to try to see, like, oh, Zelensky's is a warmonger. He doesn't want peace at all. And I was sure they did that on purpose. They didn't want him signing the agreement. They just wanted an excuse to make him look bad and trash him. That's all I would have to say about that. Now, going back to what Frontline said about the 18 to 30-year-old males. So, the problem there is that the far right / Russian / whomever the axis of evils are now, purposely have targeted them. They've gotten people like Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, these hyper masculine like role models so that they can relate to them. And once they pulled them into that type of I'm hyper masculine, follow what I do. Then that's where they start planting the seeds of being homophobic, being transphobic, following Trump. It just doesn't happen overnight. They've made these people into role models on purpose, and the only way to counteract that is to have people on the other side, like Good Trouble and Thorin Bradley, or Bradley Thorin, I don't remember his name, but there are two creators on here on TikTok who have that masculine aura, let's say, but yet they show empathy, they show compassion, they show the other side. But we need more people like them if we're going to target the 18 to 30-year-olds, because unfortunately, right now, the right / Russian / axis of evils, they have that corner pinned down right now. So that's what I have to say that. And just one more thing, because it was mentioned before, about the smart voting. So, I've been skeptical about it, and I'm glad there was a lot of positives that came out of it for Ontario. Like Johnny had pointed out, and actually also JB also released the video. I think if we really want it to work federally, I think in every single riding, we need to have a group of people who will go around door to door talking about smart voting. Just like the politicians and the MPs or the people going around in the riding, talking to people during the election. We need people going around in each riding, talking about smartvoting.ca if we actually want it to work on a full scale. Because that's the only way it's going to work, is if we get it out to people. And not everyone's on TikTok. I shared it on Facebook. Not everyone's on Facebook. We need to get it out in other ways, so not just the tech savvy people are going onto it. That's what I had to say. Thank you.
Can I chime in here?
Yeah, please go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I don't think masculine has anything to do with being rude or being nasty. I think that's like anti masculinity, because I think, some of us can be masculine without being all those things. No, we don't have to be rude. We don't have to be ignorant. We don't have to be mean. You can be masculine by being nice. That doesn't. I don't think I don't like that. I rather agree with. I'd rather talk to somebody who is not being rude, who's like willing to talk. I think that's being masculine. This whole thing about masculinity being rude and mean, I don't agree with that. I think we can do that. We can do better.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
I agree.
I didn't. That's not what I conveyed, is it? I hope that's not what I conveyed.
No, I agree with you. Most masculinity has to do with being rude, being pushy, being this overbearing, and masculinity does not have to be like that. We can be nice, you know.
Agreed. It's definitely that hyper masculinity is definitely a sales pitch. At the end of the day, that's really all it is. And the reason that they're doing it because it works right now. Because we tend to forget that everything that young males are dealing with, and everybody, not just young males, but since that's the subject right now, everything that young males are dealing with, they are not going to own a home. They are having relationship problems. That we know that there's massive gap in dating right now. We know population numbers in general are dropping. So they're getting to these boyos in the state that they're in without them understanding that the state that they're in has essentially been hijacked. Kingston, I hope you're going to come back there. We were going to get to you next there. Um, Sorry we lost you, but Sasquatch, we'll go back to you there, and then Frontline, we'll hear from you.
Just for me, I'm in kind of an interesting space. So I'm, pretty loudly a blue collar redneck kind of lady. I'm an old dent side Ford diesel loving kind of lady, and honestly, there are definitely people that I meet that are misogynistic and conservative and pretty misled. But you would not believe some of the most progressive, loving, amazing human beings that I have met in the trades, and you know what? You would never figure it. It could be the guy that's, a Gen Xer that's like in his 50s and he seems like really gruff and rough, and then he starts talking about his
I
own
think
like,
we lost you there. So,
oh,
uh,
hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear it now.
Am I back?
yeah, you're
Sorry, my
back now.
Wi-Fi's terrible here. I'm on a copper line. It's terrible.
Yep.
So I was saying that sometimes on job sites, and he seems like a grumbly guy,
So,
and
Frontline,
then
what do you have to say on the back of all that?
can you guys hear me? Hang on a minute.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good? Okay.
This is
So
Sasquatch.
I was just saying that I find a lot of the toxic
Alrighty,
masculinity.
Lori, we'll go back to you.
Oh, I hear you guys. I don't know if Radical can hear me though.
Yeah, he is. I can hear you.
Yeah. Hang
Can you
on.
hear me, Radical?
I'm. Oh, there I am. Sorry, guys. I was losing my. Sorry, I lost my Wi-Fi connection there. It looks like. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Tonight for some reason. Sorry, Frontline, are you there? Oh, hey, Frontline, are you there? Oh, heavens. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm hoping that I get back online here right away. Having some Wi-Fi issues here.
Okay, well, I'm going to step out so that you guys have a better connection, hopefully. Thank you for inviting me. Or, sorry.
Betcha. Thanks for
Thank
speaking. That was good to hear. Can
Oh, there we are. Are we back?
you hear us?
Oh, there we go. Okay, looks like I'm back.
Oh, Desiree. Can you hear now, Desiree? Can you hear us?
I'm not speaking right now, Mama Bear. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Oh, can you guys hear?
Alrighty. Sorry about that, guys. I had some Wi-Fi issues here. It looks like it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So Frontline, sorry, I'll get caught up here. What was happening?
Sasquatch was still speaking while everything glitched out. So why don't we let Sasquatch finish what she was saying, and then we'll go to me after.
Perfect.
You betcha. So, sorry, I was just saying that, working in quite a diverse, different job sites in the trades, you work with some pretty gruff guys, and there's definitely some misogyny and there's definitely some bigotry and stuff. But some of the most, like, amazingly progressive people that I've ever met in my life are the most, like, rough and tumble looking old Gen X guy driving an old beat off Chevy. And you sit and talk to them. And the one guy I worked with, he could not stop gushing about his daughter, and she was marrying her fiance, her girlfriend that was going to be her wife. And I find that a lot of the toxic masculinity, it's not where you expect it anymore. There's definitely a lot of it in the trades, but a lot of these guys that I talk to online, you start talking to them and they try and pop in about the trades. They don't know anything. I don't think they've ever cycled glow plugs on a diesel pickup. I don't think they've picked up a nail gun. I don't think they own a single tool. And that's fine. Not everyone needs to do that. But I find that, does anyone remember that study they did about bullying in gaming? And they found that the inferior male players were the ones that would bully, especially women or younger players. And I find that to be so, so true. And I work with a man in his early 80s, and he's the most wonderful guy, and he has never ever made me feel uncomfortable or anything like that. And the way they talk to the young guys, if somebody pecked up one time, so I run loader. I went and got certified for it. I've got like 10,000 hours running wheel loader. I'm very experienced in it. And so I've been at this company for 4 years, well, 5 years now, doing snow removal. And a young guy was very upset that I got a loader and he got a skid steer. And he was pecking off. And my guy jumps up and he goes, "That lady has more hours in a loader than you have driving a car. I can tell you right now, she's earned her spot. She gets the best sites because she gets the most done in her time." He goes, "She finishes what she needs to do and she's helping other people finish their sites." And he goes, "Don't be surprised if she shows up on your site because you're too slow and she's helping you out. So you be nice to her and she'll come and help you." And lo and behold, that night, who's cruising to McDonald's because this guy's too slow and has to go help him. And it's
Yep.
it's very, very interesting to me that I think a lot of these young guys, that whole 6 figure, 6 feet thing, and they think that there's this male, this ideal they need to live up to. And I think that they see women outpacing them, and that makes men very angry. I get a lot of hate on here. They'll attack my looks, they'll attack this or that. I'm 275 pounds and missing teeth. I don't care. But I think that they're very threatened by, they're competing with an ideal that other men have projected that doesn't exist. Like, how many of us really want some guy that looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger and makes $10 million a year? We don't care. We don't care. We want someone that is kind, that helps with the dishes, that's going to be a good spouse and parent and be nice to our pets and be good to our family and community. And I really think that the toxic masculinity thing is men that are isolated online, and they are absolutely, like we're saying, consuming this content that is not based in reality. And people that are looking like at like Andrew Tate, it's like that man had to abuse women and use them in trafficking to get women to talk to him. That's not an alpha male. That he can't even get a woman to look his way. They don't like him. He has to abuse them to get them to stay. And if they're learning that that's the way to get women, that's terrifying. Instead of learning that, hey, there's these wonderful progressive men out here that are in happy relationships. They have wives and sisters and daughters that come to them for, anything because they trust them. And if we could get young men online to consume better content, but it's hard. It's hard when there's all these bots and this algorithm, and they choose to consume that because it gives them that little kick that, well, at least I'm better than a woman. I'm not as good as that guy down the road, but I'm still better than a woman, or I'm still better than an immigrant. And if we can knock that insecurity down, I mean, therapy should be free for everyone. I stand on that. I think every human being on earth should be in therapy. And if we could try and sway the content to something less toxic, then maybe men, when they go out to the real world, they engage in a positive way with women, and they're not going home with that anger and rejection and then have nowhere to take it, nowhere to turn. They're not out building a house and roofing and blowing off steam or anything. They're going home and bullying people in on TikTok and in a game, chat. So the way they even release their anger is just bullying each other and perpetuating it. So if we can find a way to actually moderate those spaces properly, we're going to have to get conservative leadership out, because they're very pro-misogynistic and they like these algorithm, discrepancies. So if we can find a way to do that, it's great. But even you see the bots in these chats, they don't listen. They don't listen. They argue. They come from an ignorant place. They get defensive and they don't listen. And it's very difficult to try and sway them from that path of hating and blaming everyone else. It's a victim complex. And if we can get people out of that, where you're a normal person and so is everybody else, maybe we could fix it. I don't know how to do that. I'm not a parent. It's not really my area of expertise, but I mean, I tell men to go to therapy on the daily. That's kind of my retort to bullying is, hey, maybe you should just go to therapy, bro. I don't know what to tell you. So that's my thought on it. We need to get the algorithm in a place where it's healthy, and we see some positive, even just lifting men up in the trades. Even I see some very young redneck men where you think they'd be pretty negative, and they go, bro, I don't care what your truck looks like. I don't care if you drive a Honda Civic. We accept you. And hey, if you're new and learning on the job site, man, at least you got up and you showed up to work today and you're trying. It's never stupid to try. And there are really good young men out there. We don't see them often. There are some wonderful young men out there that are very supportive of each other, but they're drowned out by this conservative, misogynistic nonsense, right?
Agreed. Yep, agreed. Well said,
All right,
Sasha. Strong women will,
I'll take
we're
off.
gonna go. Sorry, finish your thought there, Sasquatch.
No, I'm going to mute myself. Go ahead.
Okay. Strong women, welcome to the show. We'll go to you, and then Desiree, and then Oogly Boogly. We'll have you chime in.
I don't have anything to contribute because I just kind of joined when Sasquatch was talking, so I'm not sure where the conversation started. I mean, I can catch on, but I just would maybe come back to me.
Not a problem. It's
Thank
been
you.
all over the place tonight, but like most things in life, the start of every conversation leads down other roads. So,
Yeah, maybe
Desiree,
maybe I, maybe I will say one thing. I
yeah,
just want to say I am happy to see that Americans are protesting today. I'm happy to see that it's taken up. If you've had a chance to look at New York City, it is jam packed with support for Ukraine, and of course, how they welcomed JD Vance to Vermont. And I am disappointed in the King offering Trump to come there. I think somebody said it's a second time. I'm kind of disappointed about that, especially since we're under the monarchy and the US isn't. And I don't know why he would invite him to come there, but I don't know. It's kind of all over the place. I'm glad to see that. Um, what I wanted to say is I'm glad to see that Zelensky is being well received around the rest of the world, and the support is for him. And yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Desiree, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Actually, Frontline was supposed to be after Sasquatch, so I'll give her a chance to speak first and then come back to me.
You bet. Frontline?
Yeah, just to add on to what Sasquatch was saying, there's a quote that came to mind, and I don't remember who said it, so I'm sorry if I can't figure out who first said the quote, but the quote was, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him
Yep.
somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pocket for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a hierarchical species, whether we want to admit it or not. Absolutely.
And what I said I wanted to bring up earlier, it's a little bit jumping on a different topic, but it's still about, Trump and the MAGA movement and what they're doing. I don't know if you guys saw any news about the leaked document that Eric Prince was pushing for the creation of processing camps on military bases. They said that they want a private fleet of 100 planes and the deputization of a private citizen army to hunt down and remove 12 million people in just 2 years. So that would be 500,000 people per month.
Yep.
So I just want everybody to let that sink in, because there's a network of mass detention centers and bounty hunting civilians empowered to arrest immigrants are all kind of being put in place, and these leaked documents show that, and it's dark. Like it
Yep.
is, it's really, really, really dark. Like I feel like this is a test run for something even darker.
Yep.
Once you normalize the use of military bases for mass detention and deputizing civilians to carry out arrests and bypassing legal protections, like you set the stage for massive abuse in the country. Like what happens next, right? It's going to be undesirables, protesters, political opponents, the media.
Yep.
They're putting the exact same plan in the works as Putin did when he took power in Russia, and it's terrifying. So I don't know if you guys talked about that earlier, or if it's something that's come up, or if anybody's seen the reporting of these leaked documents yet. But it's a pretty big deal.
It's all part and parcel of the authoritarianism of the U.S. and uh, I've spoken about it to this point because people don't really seem to understand the depths that Trump is actually capable of. He has all of the characteristics to make him one of the worst human beings that has ever lived. And the fact that people can't see this, yes, I get there's a lot of brainwashing. Yes, I get that there's a lot of people that simply aren't at a level where they can understand human complexity at that level. But for the rest of us, there is about a 20% chunk of our population, I believe, that is simply turning a blind eye to the possibilities, whether that's willfully or not. I couldn't tell you at this point, but the reality is everything that you could have there for one of the worst people ever is right there on full display in Trump. So, Desiree will go to you, and then Oogly Boogly will go to you after.
Um, 2 points. What happened yesterday in
Desiree, you're really, really muffled. It's really
Yeah.
hard to hear you.
okay, you know what? Come back to me. I'm on headphones,
Okay.
so I'm gonna disconnect from the headphones, and I'll let you know when I'm back.
Okay. We'll get you back on there, Desiree. So, Oogly Boogly, welcome to the show. Thanks for your patience. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so just on what's going to happen with Trump and that leaked document that Frontline just brought up, yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. And a lot of people like to think that because, obviously other politicians such as Trump in the past, like um, Mustache Man and whatnot, they seem to think that if someone isn't only awful, then they can't possibly be able to commit acts like that. But the thing is that if they didn't have qualities that people perceived at that time to be good, then they wouldn't have gotten in power in that first place, or wouldn't have gotten people behind that cause. And I think that that distorts people's view of what he's actually doing. And it's the same thing, scapegoating the country's problems to a certain group of people, and then using that to justify um, unlawful acts against them. And then that's just, it is a slippery slope, because once you know, you justify those sorts of actions to one group, then you justify it to the next group, and then it gets even broader and broader and broader. And I think we're going to get into a point where these actions are going to happen on an unimaginable scale, and it's truly terrifying to see what's going to happen.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I keep talking about understanding our population demographics, and the reality is that positions of power are going to draw the worst types of people because of exactly the things that positions of power afford: immunity, the ability to control destiny, the ability to control other people, and understanding that there is a segment of our population that sees the other parts of our population as prey. And that is how Trump sees the world. He sees people as either something to be exploited and gained from, or as prey on his way to get what he wants. And that, unfortunately, is the reality that we're dealing with, on top of the dementia and everything else that he's got going on right now. So, Kipper, we'll go to you, and then Desiree, we'll see if you got back online there. Desiree, are you back?
I'm
Yeah,
back.
okay, go for it.
Okay, two things. First one was yesterday was the most vile thing I think I have seen in a very long time. And I'm 62. And it just, I couldn't watch the video because it would make me rage. And I don't like to rage, you know. But also all of this, everything that has happened with the US and for the last 10, 15 years, especially now, reminds me of the doomsday clock. And when I first heard about this doomsday clock and they were talking about nuclear weapons and how terrified I was as a child.
Yep.
But that clock has changed from nuclear weapons. Now it's a different weapon, and we are a lot closer. We're only to me, I think we're only 30 seconds away now with everything that has happened and the progression and what they use as weapons that are so insidious in society. And most of the public doesn't even realize what the weapon is.
Yep.
And they've been so sucked in, especially in the last 7 or 8 years, you could tell them, but they can't see it.
Yep.
And it's where my fear is we're now too far to reverse and back up.
I agree.
The inevitable has to happen, and we all need to brace for it. And I'm not being, negative or fear mongering. That's the reality that I see right now. And something super drastic has to happen for all of this to stop, and everybody just take a breath and get on the right track.
Yep. Nicely said, Desiree. Kipper, welcome to the show. I just want to throw in my little promo here. If you're just joining us, welcome to Radicalized. I am your host, Mr. Radical, on Beaver Politics Network. We are here 7 days a week, multiple shows a day. Guys, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Kipper, we'll have you jump on. Welcome to the show. What do you have to say about all this?
Thanks for having me, Radical. I just had a couple points I wanted to backtrack on a little bit. Can I go back to Frontline's
Absolutely.
discussion?
Yep.
Okay. Frontline had talked about using the Air Force bases and whatnot. Now, I had heard, I'm not sure if it's true or if it's linked to what you're speaking of, Frontline, but there was talk also of people that were suffering from mental illnesses that were going to be taken off their medications, and that's where these people were going to end up as well. Has anyone heard that? Is that true?
If anybody's got info, just chime in here.
I'm not sure. Frontline
I
must be
haven't
busy.
heard back, but I wouldn't be surprised. Someone in the comments says yes, someone.
Oh, okay.
But given the patterns that we've been seeing, and his, I mean, given Trump's history with his studying of the Mustache Man and what he's been doing now, it tracks with the pattern of action that he set up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, realistically, should anybody be surprised? Unfortunately, at anything at this point, and that is part of what my pitch has been lately. Like, you should not be surprised at anything. Was I disgusted by what happened yesterday in the White House? Unquestionably. Was I surprised by it? Unfortunately, no, because we're simply seeing the progression, and I keep saying it that the Handmaid's Tale is the journey, the Hunger Games is the destination.
yes.
So, well, Kipper, finish your thought, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Frontline, and then Oogly, and then back up to Sean.
Okay. I just want to touch again back up again, and you kind of touched on it too there, Radical. Just the mess of what happened last night. And I wanted to kind of address Lori with this. And I just came into the live when Lori was discussing the grandchildren. I too felt the same way. I was so overwhelmed. I was in tears that I couldn't believe this was happening. I searched out lives like this that people were talking decently and being respectful to talk through it and try to work through the whole horrific situation. Um, but Lori, I really would strongly recommend, like today, I had to really pull myself away from it. Just go for a walk, have a hot bath, get the kids busy outside, do joyful things with them, like really, really take care of your mental health through this. And I think that stands for all of us. There can be too much of this online stuff that's going to overwhelm our minds, and it's coming in so quick, so fast, minute by minute, day by day, hour by hour, and we just don't know what's going to happen next, and it's scary. I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Kipper. I'm just going to interrupt my order for just 1 second to say, hey there, Miss Radical.
Hey there, Mr. Radical. How you doing?
Good.
Pretty cool chat.
It's going well. So we'll go back up with the order that I had originally. Thanks for popping in, Miss Radical. So Sean, Frontline, and then Oogly, and then we'll go from there.
So me, right? Sorry, just want to
Yep.
make sure. Yep.
You betcha.
So actually, I just want to address. We've been talking in the comments. Sonia's had mentioned RFK Jr.'s plans about SSRIs and all that, and I said like restricting the SRIs is one thing. It's the other plans that are even scarier about the camps. And I read into that, and he wants to put anyone who is on SSRIs or has an anxiety disorder or depression or ADHD or autism, and that can be like, I mean, especially with Facebook allowing people to call LGBTQ people mentally ill. I'm pretty sure he wants to put us in those camps too, and then like some words that stuck out to me were like self-sustaining, meaning it's going to be like a work camp, and
Yep.
for as long as that quote unquote treatment is needed, which that's open-ended. That could be forever.
Well, especially if you don't have your medications.
Yep.
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 Yep. My family, without getting into a lot of details, part of what I do and why I am being vocal is people that I love depend on the system being stable. That's the reality of it, and that's part of the reason that I do what I do. I think it's part of the reason that a lot of people are standing up now and doing what they're doing, because we fully understand that putting our faces out there comes with some inherent risk. But at the end of the day, I ain't going down without a fight.
Yeah, same here. And like I know that especially for a lot of the not personality disorders, anxiety disorders and stuff like that, medication, like they've done studies, and medication along with good therapy is what helps people. And when I was thinking about it, I mean, these people are going to be out without their medications first. Second of all, they're not going to be getting good therapy. I'm thinking of Nurse Ratched type of therapy. I don't know if you guys remember One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Nurse Ratched, but
Yep.
that's good. That's the type of therapy that I'm going to see. I see in my head what's going to go on, like full of gaslighting, and if you don't obey, lobotomy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'm done for
It's
saying that.
not, I don't think it's going to be very good at all. At all.
No, unfortunately we're past the tipping point of good. That's the shitty part about all of this. At the end of the day, we're past the point of good right now. We just have to get what we can in line with the time that we have. I hate to fearmonger. I don't want to be sitting up here saying this. I never thought in my life that I would be in front of thousands and millions of people that I'm putting myself out there and my thoughts and opinions. But I feel so strongly about this because if you're any student of history at all, you know darn well that the people that say nothing always determine the future. So, Frontline will go to you, and then Oogly will go to you after.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say in terms of, not fear mongering. And it's kind of sad that we're just trying to tell people what we know is going to happen, and other people call us fear mongers. But again, like, as you said, are we past the tipping point? Is there going to be a tipping point? If we look at history, it takes a long time for people to come out of the cult. And if we really think about what happened in 1930s Germany, I'm sorry if I'm saying it in a wrong way, or I hope I don't offend anybody, but a lot of those Yahtzees from back then immigrated to North America.
Yep.
And they've been here for a long time. And now they've just become emboldened. So, unfortunately, that ideology never actually went away after World War II. It just went into hiding.
Yep.
And so now it's coming back out, and we are going through a repeat, but we're going through a repeat with way more technological advancement, which makes it way scarier. I think there's more of us that are awake this time around because we know our history. However, we're also being suppressed and silenced.
Yep.
And again, I don't want to fearmonger either, but we have to get ready for a modern day 1930s Germany all over again. It's happening. It's happening in front of our eyes.
Yep.
We have people on the right who genuinely get dopamine hits from seeing others suffer.
Yep.
Like, that's what I'm finding with a lot of these people, right? When you see conservatives talk in the comments and stuff like that, oh, I can't wait to watch you liberals cry. And it's like, why do you want to watch somebody cry? Like, what's wrong with you that you genuinely get a dopamine hit when you watch other people suffer? It doesn't make any sense unless you've been radicalized to be a Yahtzee. And so it's going to happen. We need to somehow prepare ourselves. We need to fight back. And we need to wake up the masses. And I know I've said it before, and I sound like a broken record over here, but there are so many people, I would say even 50% of our population, that has no clue what's going on. They don't know what's happening in America. They don't know what's happening in our own country. I had people the other day ask me if the federal elections were going to be next year in 2026 because they don't follow anything. They're so wrapped up in their own little bubbles, and capitalism created that kind of individualistic, bubble wrapped reality that they just have no clue. And I'm really, really scared that by the time that those people do catch on to what's happening, it's going to be way too late. And I don't know how to wake up those masses, because when I do try, they just tell me, oh, you're just being negative. I don't want to worry about that. I'm just too busy. I've got 3 kids. I can't do that. And if we don't get through to those people ASAP, we're in big, big trouble. We're already in big, big trouble, but the trouble's going to get even worse. So put on your thinking caps, study psychology, understand the psychology behind being in a cult, educate yourself on that, and figure out how you can reach out to people, how you can reach out to your communities. And we got to break this cult mentality. And the people that, get dopamine hits from watching others suffer, I don't know what to do about them. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, if you want to add to that, please go ahead, because I'm at a loss for what to do about those people.
Oogly, you were going to go next, and then Calvin, we'll go to you after. Calvin, if I could have you mute your mic until you're on board, if you would, please.
Yeah, so to kind of build off of that, I wrote a fairly extensive literature review on the propagation of digital misinformation in the US. And it's, well, not to keep using the word scary, but it's incredibly easy to spread misinformation in a way that gets people to truly believe that's how it is. And obviously, it's become apparent that it's working. And sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but it's what's happening. Like, democracy, as we've set it up in North America, is extremely fertile grounds for demagogues. So people who feed off of and prey off of prejudice and people's emotions. And it's exactly what, Trump is doing. And he is incredibly skilled at doing that, which is what's allowed him to become so popular and build such a strong emotional, I guess, fan base feels like the wrong word, but I guess following. And it's the people that there's a flow chart that was used to describe how online communities such as incels and those such groups kind of justify violence. And it's basically, it starts by you get a grievance, and then you assign a group to be the cause of that grievance, and then you incite anger towards them, then you find ways to dehumanize them, which turns into justifying violence against them. So what Frontline was saying about the people who are being sadistic and wanting to see these people suffer, they truly see them as the cause of their pain and their problems, and they don't even see them as human. They have such a big disconnect between their lives and the lives of others that they truly believe in their heart of hearts that hurting them will make their lives better, which is in no way true. Because if you look at the issues that people are complaining about in the US, whether it be the cost of living, that's actually probably the biggest one. It's not because of immigrants or people with mental illness. It's because of the government that they're following with these solutions that are just going to keep the government in power and are just going to keep that same class that's actually causing their problems in power. So yeah, your analogy of them being like a cult is dead on, because they're in themselves kind of like victims. Obviously, it's hard to call them that when they're, you know, doing such or propagating such awful things about other people, but they are in a certain way victims, and it's just awful to have such a large country and have a large percentage of a country basically being turned into a cult. And it's like, well, what can you do when the leader of the cult is the leader of the country?
It's a situation and a half, no question about it. So, Calvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my man. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I've been following a lot of you guys, and I love your content. To give you a little background on myself, I've studied the United States and its politics since I was 18 years old. I'm 46 now, so I pretty much know the structure, who's done what states have done, what strategies they've used. I've also studied social science, and I was the victim of a narcissistic relationship. So, with all of those things combined, I've recognized what is happening to our society. And a lot of us can't fathom why these people can't see the truth. It's because they don't have the mental capacity to see the truth anymore, because they are so far indoctrinated that when we face the truth to them aggressively, they dig in their heels even more. So I've developed a mind map of where this started. It all started with COVID. See, the narcissistic cycle and the indoctrination of any person in a cult has to start with a trauma. And we've all experienced that trauma in COVID, where we were divided and our minds were going crazy. We were all fighting for the same resources. After COVID, we were continuously bombarded with sick people and people passing away. I don't know about you guys, but since September, family members and friend ones have passed away in my family, and I've had to attend funerals twice a month since September. So the trauma is there. When you have trauma, the cortisol levels in your body raise. And when they raise, your ability to think critically decreases. And this is the first start of start of the process. And that's why we can't get through to these people. They're good people. It's just they're indoctrinated. They're actually literally brainwashed. So if you study the narcissistic cycle, when and I've seen a lot of content creators try to fact check these people, we can't do that based on social science, because we're questioning their ego. And when we question a human being's ego, a wall comes up, and whatever you tell them goes in one ear and out the other. When I've started my own tactic of how I approach people softly. I listen to them. I validate their concerns, because their views and their concerns and whatever media outlet that they're consuming is literally valid and true to them, no matter how misguided it is to them. Only after I've listened and validated them are they willing to listen to me. And the only thing, well, you guys all see the pattern of what happened in the United States. It's happening here in Canada. So our politicians have to shock society. They have to start using slogans, simple language, lines like bullshit, simple phrases that will stick to people that have a very limited frame of mind. And this is why the conservatives are so good with slogans. It's because with our limited mental capacity of all the trauma that's been going on and the constant gaslighting on TikTok.
Yep.
TikTok did its job in the United States, then it came over here, and all of a sudden, all of us are content creators now. TikTok is the catalyst to the gaslighting in this whole entire cycle, and Facebook after its filters have gone down. So we've got to play a smart game. We've got to play social science. We've got to pressure our politicians to start using simple language and shock people to listen. That's number one. Number two is we have to soft educate people. I've seen some creators fact checking and arguing with content creators that are on the far right. This is exactly what they want because not only do they get to report our account in masses, but also it distracts us from educating the public at large. That's exactly their strategy, to divert our attention. And because we get that human response, whether if it's anger, disgust, or disbelief, our cortisol levels in our bodies rise significantly. The only thing that'll counteract that is actually disconnecting. That's why Kendrick Lamar said, turn off the TV. That guy is in social sciences. He's taking courses in university. He's a
Mhm.
very intelligent man, and he knows what he's talking about. They've got to, our people have to disconnect. And it doesn't help when you have the conservatives calling actual media outlets that are governed by legislation calling it fake news. We can't force people to look at our content and stop looking at propaganda. All we can do is guide them. And if we continue on this, and this is what they did in the States, and I followed content creators in the States, they did the exact same thing. They tried to push their own views on these MAGA chuds, but instead of getting through to them, they made them even worse. And I hope to God and I pray, I'm First Nation. I don't know about all of you guys, but I'm the first on the chopping block if anything comes of Pierre Poilievre coming into power here. And if he has a majority government, we are all totally screwed. We will be an extension of the United States. We might still be called Canada, but just like Belarus it is to Russia, we
Yep.
won't be Canadian.
Yep.
And I love your content, guys. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Much appreciated, Calvin. That was really well. You loved it from beginning to end. Well said. Now, while I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying, while yes, there is a certain level of indoctrination, one of the things that I keep talking about is understanding our population demographics. There is a portion of our population that gets off on this. It is not indoctrination. This is who they are. When they see Trump, they feel who he is and they connect with who he is because he is them, just as ignorant and cowardly and hostile and just completely inept. And when you're in that state, much like Calvin said, when you're in a state and then you add trauma response and brainwashing, all of these things on top of it, and of course we have of course we have issues. It's the same problem that I have when religion uses the numbers game. Well, X amount of people believe. Well, of course they believe because you have a multi generational, multinational, multi bilingual, multi billion-dollar indoctrination machine that starts on kids before their fine motor skills are even in place. So what we're seeing right now is absolutely a continuation of that. However, I don't want people to kid themselves that there is a portion of our population that is always going to look on the rest of us as prey. Desiree, we'll go to you, and then Lori. I'm just looking at the time here, guys. I'm basically, I think, unfortunately, going to have to go through for last thoughts here on the show. And I just want to thank everybody who's been by. This is Radicalized. I am your host, Mr. Radical, here on the Beaver Politics Network. Don't forget, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. We have shows 7 days a week, so no matter what your flavor of politics, no matter what your flavor of social interest, Beaver Politics has got you covered. So join us here, join us and follow on TikTok. And don't forget, if you missed a show, you can catch it now on YouTube. So we're there too. So Sean, we'll go to you. Final thoughts here for tonight.
So much good things have been said. I'm not quite sure where to start. Can you come back to me? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Desiree?
thanks.
Yeah, I just want to. The people who have young children, children at home, who they're trying to raise with awareness, my heart goes out to you. And those who have grandchildren, my heart goes out to you. I do not have any grandchildren. And at this point, I am grateful I do not have grandchildren. Because the way things are going, I don't know that my heart can take that much terror. You know, for my kids, and then add grandchildren into that, that's a whole other level of terror that I don't know that I could handle. And kudos for you who have grandchildren, raising grandchildren and young children at home. I don't know. Like I'm that, and I've been feeling that for quite a while now.
Yep.
You know, it's hard. It's got to be just extremely difficult to cope yourself and then have to help the children cope and explain everything. That it's a lot.
I hear you, Desiree. Miss Radical and I's kids are both in their 20s, and, it's, yeah, this is part of why I do what I do is for my kids.
Mine are in their 30s, mid 30s, and I just trying to think of what it would be like to raise them now. Now,
Yeah,
I yeah, no, I'm tongue tied over it.
I hear you. Thanks, Desiree. Lori, final thought for tonight?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the support, Desiree. That was great, actually. And Kipper, you were great too. We are doing something with the girls tomorrow out there. We're going to spend a full day out. We're going out for breakfast, then we're going skating in the woods. It's very cold here still, lots of ice. So we're going skating in the woods, taking a day off. So it's going to be great. And happy to say that it's possible my son might be joining the Army. I've been pushing him. He is in great shape. It's the work he does. So I'd really like to see that. But my final thought is I started off the week worried about the Arctic because I bought military equipment. I supported our CF 18s, the Hercs, all kinds of military aircraft. We need our F 35s. We need bases, like Mark Carney said, on the Arctic Circle. We do. We really need some bases there. And I'm still afraid for our Arctic. I just don't know what's going to happen there because I know that Trump has his eye on it. Of course, it gives him easy access to Alaska. So just for me, it's a concern. And I do hope we still are able to take delivery of the F 35s. I think it's Lockheed Martin that's delivering them. But the CF 18s are done. They were done when I bought spares for them 25 years ago. They were falling apart. So, really, We desperately need new military equipment. And I'm anxious to see what Mark Carney does because I'm optimistic. Mark Carney, when he comes into power, because I think we need that oomph, we need that push. We need somebody with fresh ideas who's going to go toe to toe with Trump and help us out. And that's it. Good night, everyone. It's been a fabulous life. It's been really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. Frontline.
My last thoughts are kind of it's between what you and Calvin said. I think that there are certain people that we need to approach with compassion. I don't know if it always works. I definitely do try my best. I've been in this fight for a really long time, even before COVID. At the end of the day, this COVID made everything worse. It was, the best fertile ground to brainwash people, but the brainwashing started before COVID. I mean, it started a really long time ago. As you guys know, kind of my passion has always been Eastern European politics, specifically the way that Russia has used propaganda and misinformation to sink their teeth into Georgia, into Ukraine, into Hungary. And the same kind of propaganda was brought to America pretty much around 2013, 2014. It started becoming really evident. Even in Trump's first term, there was a lot of misinformation and propaganda used there as well. So it started, I think, before COVID. COVID just amplified it. It just, gave it all the fuel. And I'm also somebody who's studied philosophy and spirituality. I've been teaching yoga for 15 years. And when I first got into it, the reason that I was so attracted to the yoga, I don't want to call it a religion because it's not, it's a philosophy. But at the end of the day, the basis was just love and compassion, right? Loving everything, not just everyone, but everything. Loving your own thoughts, loving nature, loving the fish and the bears and the trees and everybody. And I've been trying to sway people with love and compassion for so long. And obviously, in the last year of my life, I've been very exhausted by doing that because it feels like it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes I can maybe get one or two people to maybe come around and be vulnerable and feel good that I was able to listen to them and hear them out. But I find that with how radicalized people have become on the right, not even that is getting through to them. I could literally sit there and listen and be vulnerable and show emotion, and it just doesn't get through. There's so much hate and rage on their side that there's nothing that can break through it. And that's what scares me the most. That's what I don't know how to handle and what to do about it. So unfortunately, I'm kind of at a loss in terms of how to deal with these people. I'm going to continue to try and be compassionate and hear people out, especially in my day to day, not necessarily on social media. I know that I've, lost my cool a couple of times in a certain lives and certain debates. But yeah, moving forward, I think that's all we can do is try to be compassionate, try to be empathetic. But there's certain people that we just can't sway, and don't be disillusioned by that. Try your best to deal with your own emotions and move on, because there's going to be those that unfortunately are not swayable, no matter how much you try and no matter how much love and compassion you show them. So yep.
Agreed. Thanks, Frontline. Calvin, your final thought for the night?
My final thought is for the night. I totally agree with you, 100%, my dear. I hope you don't mind me calling you my dear.
We're good.
I totally agree with you. I've been reading this book called The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, I think. It may be too late for a lot of people. They maybe have gone too far. And this is why exactly I'm trying to get politicians to take off the gloves. They literally have to play the game if they are to get any traction. A lot of these people are already far too gone, and they need to be shocked with the same language. Essentially, Our politicians have to start their own propaganda, reverse propaganda on the people that are already indoctrinated. And I'm so frustrated. I saw the Democrats in the United States take the high road. Where did that get them? They're about to lose their democracy. Our politicians have to grow a set and say what needs to be said. And they need to call out Rebel News. They need to call out all these other outlets out. And, don't be scared of getting lawsuits or whatever, because this is a matter of us losing our freedoms or not. The LGBTQ community in the United States is now under attack. First, it was the foreigners, then it was the LGBTQ plus community. Mark my words, after them, it's First Nation people.
Yep.
And that's where I'm at. I'm third on the chopping block in this country.
Yep.
And we have to stick together, guys. I love your content. Share our contents and boost our algorithm. I think it's a point for a like and comment and a repost. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Calvin. Appreciate it. Kipper, and then Strong Women, and then Sean.
I just want to backtrack a little bit with Calvin, and I agree with you on your sense of how the world done a turn after COVID. I agree with you 100% there. And then I want to go up to Frontline. And Frontline, you had mentioned a couple of times ago that you're frustrated in also your end comments. One thing that we were talking about in a live I was in the other night on how maybe in helping the negativity and helping people see facts is maybe helping people identify the bots. We're getting overrun with bots, the Russian bots, and like just people in the chats, in the rooms. So I don't know if that'll help by like bringing it into discussion on teaching people going forward of not to be fooled by AI. Don't be fooled by bots. Like how to determine a bot that's in your room. And people in the chats, I notice in some lives, they'll continue on and argue and you check their profile and they're a darn bot. So why give them the energy? So like to educate people more on how to protect themselves, how to identify what's wrong, and like common sense stuff, I guess. I don't know if that'll help Frontline, but I think Beaver Politics, all of you are fantastic. You all have a platform that deal with certain topics, and I've really enjoyed. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much, Kipper. Strong Women.
Okay, I only have to say one thing that I was awestruck by today. I want you to sort of it really stood out to me. It was a post that I saw, which was a display in a bookstore. And it had these books on the shelf.
Oh, we lost you there, Strong.
Sorry, I'm just trying to list all the books, which were like Animal Farm, 1984, Parable of a Sower, even The Handmaid's Tale. And they were all on the shelf, sort of all scattered on this display. And above it were, this is your warning, not your manual.
Yep.
And it was all things like that. And when we were talking about that, we can't reach certain people, like maybe having displays of these books, or maybe we'll have it because, Anne Frank's book is there detailing all kinds of things that we are kind of circling back to, what we want people to if we keep going down this road, wake their eyes up to. So I just really thought if you can kind of visualize that, it was really impactful, right? This is your warning. These books are your warning of something that we could be experiencing.
Yeah, as I've mentioned it before, The Handmaid's Tale is the journey, The Hunger Games is the destination point. That's where we're headed. Sean, sorry to lose you there, but so we're gonna cut her off for tonight. I think that's we've definitely gone past our time here. But the discussion was so good that I really didn't want to cut it off. So I wanted to thank all of our guests here and everybody who's watching. I am Mr. Radical. This is Radicalized on the Beaver Politics Network. We are here 7 days a week, multiple times a day, whatever your flavor of political and social relevance or news. Beaver Politics has got you covered. Remember, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. We are looking for somebody under 30 to join the Beaver Politics Network. I hope you get a hold of us. We want to cover all of our bases as far as all of our population is concerned so that everybody feels heard. The one demographic that we're kind of missing on right now is the under 30 crowd. So if you're under 30, if you're into politics, if you're into social justice issues, get a hold of somebody here, the Mrs. Radical, myself, Frontline as well, and get yourself a spot on the show because we'd love to have you. Thanks for everybody for tuning in tonight. We will see you again next Saturday. Good night, everybody.